The creators built the ways for their needs and use, so that they could cross from world to world amongst the stars far quicker than other means. The chief had been droning on for almost an hour about history that I was well acquainted with. How our creators made the ways, how they used them to cross vast distances to collect the components for our mortal birth, and how they shaped us from flesh and stone, crystal and tree. We all knew the tale. We all knew why we fought in those ways even now, thousands of years after the creators vanished. The Wyrm Ways were the only real hope of interplanetary travel. The distances involved were far too great to be crossed without them, or the return of the creators. And thus, the war we've been waging in the ways against the hordes of gorgers was essential if the light of the creators was to ever again extend beyond our own homeworld. What is new is that the tunnels are expanding in the outer reaches, and quickly. The chief had my attention with that. The tunnels that comprise the Wyrm Ways are hundreds of feet in diameter when fully awakened, but much smaller the further away from a powered gate you get. Each gate can only support up to 8 nodes of expansion beyond its own, since gates are only able to be powered by the presence of the creators, or their direct descendants. This meant the creators were once more among the stars in number. Their presence on worlds long lost would cause the ways to wake up and begin to return to their full size, stretching and reaching out to other tunnels and junction nodes in the ways. The rippling glyphs and runes that serve to illuminate the ways from its walls also contain directions to any gates within 4 nodes, if one knows the true tongue of the creators. The growth of the tunnels may well bring other worlds close enough for an exploration team to find while scouting for locations of gorgeous swarms and potential safe routes of exploration in the labyrinth of tunnels that is the ways. Other than our brethren worlds, where our creators spread our people before they had vanished, we had no clue as to might be found out in the ways. The hope, of course, was always to find a way to the lost worlds and any descendants of the creators, so that we might rejoin them and serve in their grand designs in the place deigned for us. We have control of all the gates from our world, as well as at least 1 or not 2 nodes beyond, with each node having possibly many tunnels that meet within it. This is a large area to defend and patrol, and the bulk of our people are kept busy doing so. We can't even say for sure if our brethren worlds still stand, as the Gorger's infestation has blocked off contact with them since the earliest of our records. We know their gates are still powered, as the directions still flow, but beyond that, we have no clue of their condition or status. Our lines are solid and they hold, but if the tunnels are growing in size, those lines may be drawn unsustainably thin. Where many of the tunnels in the outer reaches are less than 20 or 30 feet in size and easy enough to barricade against the horde waves the gorgers attacked in, at possibly 4 or 5 or even larger than that times its size. It is not such an easy calculation. The chief was saying as such, explaining that manpower was being stretched to the point that all other expeditions beyond our controlled territory had been suspended. This was also the reason my team would be so small, They could only afford to commit a minor squad to this proposed exploration. As I listened, the chief showed me a bit of script. It was the creator's true tongue. I could read it due to years of secretive study, a skill that only a few were aware of, as it was seen as a heresy for any to know it beyond our holy men. Of course, the chief was aware. He'd been the one to slip me the first few texts of it, even if its words were mysteries to him. Can you tell me what this says? The chief's tone betrays that while most of the script was clear and easy to translate, it was shorthand identifiers for gate and the conditions on the other side of it, a temperate, mountainous region. But the identifier for the world's name, or the gate's location, were in runes that I could not translate cleanly, and neither could the holy men by the chief's tone. I shook my head after a few more minutes of trying. Damn. Well, it doesn't matter. The script was picked up in a node near the front lines of the Flames Cauldron Gate front, in a region that is projected to be all but clear of gorgers. The chief was trying to put a positive spin on it. A small team with a single humper for supplies stands a very good chance of avoiding any trouble. You are going to get the pick of your team from any of our non-deployed forces. This crystal has all the relevant data, along with a few that caught my own eye highlighted for your convenience. Your orders are to locate the script, follow it to the gate, and ascertain what is on the other side of it. Full mapping protocols are to be observed, but not if it would endanger your arrival at the gate. As you know the Holy Tongue, you will be able to open the gate once you arrive. The keys are in the crystal as well. Commit them to your memory. You have a month to recruit, assemble, and train your team. I want you on your way in 6 weeks. Dismissed. As I turned and made my way out, I began to wonder what had changed out there in the star. What had brought back the creators to other worlds, but not ours? I figured I would ask them once we found this gate, and the creators whose presence had revitalized and reawakened its ways. I stopped mid-step for a moment at the thought, actually. Speaking to the creators. And it would most likely fall to me to report the status of my people. If we survived the journey and did not fall prey to a random pack of wandering gorgers, we would be the first to step foot on a world beyond our own in history. All due to the gift of our creators, their Wyrm Ways. The Wyrm Ways. The sound was a deep rumble softly echoing off the walls of the vast room. Stel, dragon first, created by the hand of the Nine Wings himself, seemed lost for a moment in the memories of ancient times, before the war, before Jam'mar blinked out of existence, when the Wyrm Ways were proposed. After a moment, he looked back at his guest, the Praetor Starwalker, and sighed. The Wyrm Ways. I have had no reason to think of that endeavor since my awakening in this age of stars, the great dragon mused. It was the brainchild of a firstborn clan of shapers and benders. It would have been a living superorganism that would connect all the worlds the dragonkind had spread to, via a pocket plane concealed in the folds of interplanar space. From what I was appraised of, they'd even managed to form the basis around it. using the world they claimed as their personal domains in those early days. Unfortunately, in the years just before the loss of Jam'mar, the entire clan was wiped out in a ill-fated assault on some IttR base. Stell shook his head mournfully. They were the only ones that had the key phrases that would open and close the gates, as well as how to identify where and how the gates would manifest on worlds. As a living thing, it was supposed to reach out and connect to any world dragons had settled in number. We have no idea how this was supposed to work. The clan in question was secretive, even for dragons. Unless we happen upon their worlds and find records of its construction and how to operate it, this great project will likely never see any use within the realms. So, they are real, and we only have to find the claimed planets of the dragons that created it? Starwalker was not dismayed by the apparent loss of this ancient transit method. Instead, he began to see more threads of his former lord's plan manifest. That is a far simpler of a task, so long as those worlds are in phase, of course. I will reach out to the Pathbreakers and see if they have any clues, as well as giving them something to keep an eye out for. I doubt you shall find it such a simple task, Praetor. 6 planets, out of the hundreds that are presently in phase, and hundreds more that still hang out of phase with baseline reality, and you haven't a clue or lead to start from, even if all the worlds were currently in alignment. However, if you should meet with success, understand that more than likely, only one of draconic blood will be able to use the passkeys. Your convenient workaround for the loss of Naiwe's scale, offensive as it is, should still allow you to use them, which is fortunate for you. A detail to keep in mind at the very least. Good luck. Now, go! With that, Starwalker found himself back on his ship and speeding forwards to his next destination. After the news of the Cosmos Fleet mutiny broke, securing another means of transit that would be able to avoid the chance of encountering one of those rogue mega vessels was of high importance. They had the technologies aboard those things that could suppress cog space access, as well as disrupt exclusion field cohesion. And this meant, short of IttR gates, which are not exactly common, any one of these vessels could easily enact a full system blockade. The Wyrm Ways offered a method of interplanetary transit that would sidestep any such impediments, so long as they could be opened. Starwalker chided himself on not asking about the clan that created it, but an entire firstborn clan being slain in an attack should not be too hard to track down once he returns to the Primus and begins researching in earnest. With any luck, the archive should have all the knowledge required to begin the hunt for the presumably abandoned worlds left behind after the deaths of this clan of firstborn dragons. Over a week since passing our outer lines, and not 3 days from finding the terminus of the unknown gate script, and we find ourselves in the final node before we reach the gate. For once, the chief's assertions of low to no presence of Gorger was accurate, with only 5 encountered, all of which were lone wanderers and easily slain, as their true threat is when they are in numbers. However, we have discovered that in this closest node to our goal, that gate script for another known gate terminates here. The gate in the Cloud Peak Mountains on my own world, the most embattled of the gates of our world, is where this script undeniably led to. And that was an issue, as it meant that between that gate and where we now stood, there was at least one fully infested node of Gorgers, if not more. The leader of the Orgons, a mountain of flesh and scale, upon hearing my concern immediately moved to withdraw a bundle of cans from the hopper and stretch them along the tunnel mouth leading towards the gate at Cloud Peak. A moment later, the cans expanded to large drums sitting on their sides, which were quickly punctured and began to pour an acrid-smelling, viscous liquid slowly down the tunnel. Setting a tripwire some yards down the tunnel while avoiding the spreading gel, the Orgon smiled as he set up a wind pole and activated it, causing a stiff breeze to issue down the tunnel, clearing the smell from the node and ensuring that if the trap should be set off, the flames and heat would flow towards the gate and our kin. While they were 2, if not 3 nodes away, they would know without a doubt that allies had found a new connecting node, and if they were lucky, an offensive to clear out the nodes would be mounted. A few minutes later, as we finished our final checks before moving on, the leader of the Quiver Snakes loosed a dozen arrows down the hall, as a single Gorger had rounded the tunnels about 100 yards away. While they were all but blind, only able to sense a few yards in any direction, Gorger's sense of smell was not to be underestimated. And even though Gorgers had begun to avoid the smell of our fire oil in our recent uses of it, they had obviously figured out where that smell was. So were our kind. As the Gorger blew apart from the arrows that sank deep into its flesh only to expand, tearing it apart from within, its death scream was answered by an altogether frighteningly large chorus. I ordered a double-time march to the gate, trusting the trap we had laid to hold the oncoming rush at bay for some time. Gorgers would absorb any kind of metaphysical energy, making magic and empowered weapons useless. However, natural fire, acids, and the like were utterly lethal to them. The trap should buy us at least an hour's lead, if not many more. Gorgers weren't exceptionally fast, but in large enough numbers they would toss their fellows forward in waves before finally rushing the last few scores of feet to their prey. This was a markedly faster way for them to advance. And if our luck had failed, and it was a plague of Gorgers, and not just a swarm or a pack, they would be able to threaten us very quickly after they navigated the trap. Less than 10 minutes later, a sudden draw of air back the way we came told us that the trap had been set off, and the resulting echoing sounds of Gorgers burning and screaming confirmed it. Despite ourselves, we all but fled down the tunnel, our 6-legged humper construct giving up on all attempts of a quiet traversal in its efforts to keep pace. By the time we saw the gate, we had been running for nearly 3 hours, and the Gorgers were closing quickly, with the front edge of their throwing waves not 200 yards behind us. We quickly set a defensive line at the mouth of the gate's node. I wasn't going to risk opening the gate unless I had no other choice. The Gorgers would ravage and consume any world they came upon, and I would not let them have this one. Not when it was the promise of our people reconnecting with the creators or their descendants. The battle was fierce, even with a smaller, hastily set version of the fire oil trap. Hundreds of Gorgers were slain and beaten back, with thousands burned by its end. For nearly an hour we fought like the creators themselves were watching, and as the last dregs of the horde were put down, only I and the leader of the Orgons and Quiver Snakes were still alive. Our humper was still functional, if only just, but we had done it, and now it was time to do what we were here to do. As I turned towards the gate arch, the keys forming on my tongue, the humper lifted off the ground and flew towards me, as if thrown by an impossibly large hand. The leader of the Orgons interposed himself and half caught, half deflected the massive construct to the side. The sounds of shattering and snapping bones under the stress was clear in the relative silence of the tunnels. He all but collapsed to his knees from the effort, but indicated he would be alright quickly. Orgons were designed to be able to heal with great rapidity, and it was good to know that even the exertions of running in battle, he was still capable of healing such a traumatic injury. Before I could proceed, a spectral entity then manifested before the arch, purple-hued and humanoid in shape, with points of light across its body. It angrily chastised us for not dying and daring to foul its plans. It stated if we had not the good sense to die honorably in a glorious battle, that it would give us the shame of a pitiful execution. Before it could move to enact that threat, however, a peal of dark, morose, and utterly humorless laughter echoed from everywhere, yet nowhere. The being froze and seemed to search about in utter terror, seemingly forgetting about the three of us, before uttering a single word in a fearful tone and vanishing, fleeing the now fading laughter. Searching around in the now utterly quiet node, with only the soft hum and pulse of the ways to be heard, the source of the laughter was not apparent, and none of us had recognized it in the slightest. Whatever it was gone, as was this strange attacker. Taking a moment to gather what we could, I opened the gate with as little delay and fanfare as possible. What should have been a momentous occasion and the achievement of a lifetime was now a desperate bid for survival. What we would find inside would change our people forever. From the dark abyss that was revealed on the other side of the gate, a single utterance of the true tongue issued forth, low and raspy, as if from a throat parched by ages without drink. Strangely, the first word was the same as the strange entity's last, something I saw the leader of the Quiver Snakes notice as well. How did that specter know any of the true tongue? As we made our way through the gate to find the source of the voice, I was asked the meaning of the words. I could only shake my head, saying that they were words of confusion and pain, not a burden for them to carry, as they were of the true tongue of our creators. However, it roughly translated as, Cromnius? Father? Who speaks your name, O my lost progenitor? How am I to explain my brother's death, my own maiming? Father, I pray you have returned, for we have failed. Father, are you there? If you'd like to contribute to the further exploration and explanation of the realms, please consider leaving a comment, a like, and sharing the video around. I read all the comments and make efforts to reply to each. Thank you for helping to grow the channel, and know I look forward to each and every one of your comments. Other methods of support can be found in the channel's description. Thank you for watching.